George, welcome back. I've
Yeah,
missed you.
yeah, I've missed you too. It seems like forever.
It seems like it's been a minute, yeah.
Yeah,
And you were sharing just before we started. I guess you're cooped up a little bit inside.
yeah,
There's some rain happening.
yeah. We just had some big rainstorms yesterday, and it's still raining today. So not going to get to do much work outside today.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah,
Well, I guess the timing is good then. I'll just explain to the audience here.
yeah,
I texted George a little bit before we jumped on here and said, "Hey, let's do a conversation today." And as he should, he's like, okay, well, are we just getting on and just or is it a topic? And there is a specific topic I wanted to talk about. um, I'm going to frame this up, George, if I may frame it up a little
sure.
bit, and I'd love to just have us kind of jump right into what we're thinking about it.
Okay.
I'll approach this by saying this. For me, there have been several things for me over the past few days, from all different areas of life that seem to be bringing me to this spot for me right in this moment. And this is kind of the latest one. And I'm just going to tackle that one. We'll talk about it here and maybe that'll expand.
Okay.
Um, there's a there's a podcast that talks about many things, but this one, which is actually not, it's recent, but not that recent, back in October, and it has a headline that can really grab you if you read it this way, that says narcissists do not exist. I'm going to
Mhm.
sit that part to the side because that's a
Yeah,
very divisive kind of way to get someone's attention, but it also gets people's attention and they listen in and
yeah,
dig further into it. So what that person's trying to really get across is that when you label someone or something, you tend to take on this kind of victim energy where the solution is not within yourself, the blame is not within yourself, and so thereby your responsibility isn't within yourself either.
yeah,
It isn't to take away that people have treated you unkindly or treated you in a, or they're currently doing it, everything from abusive words to physical abuse. It's not disparaging any of that. It's talking directly to how you mentally work through that and view things as life lessons, as opposed to this happened to me and it's not my fault and woe is me and that kind of thing.
hmm,
So I really liked the way it was spiritually embedded
yeah,
to how you should look inward. Um, and I didn't read a lot of the comments, but I read a couple,
mm,
and some of them were really, really praiseful, if that's a word.
yeah,
And then others were like, I can't believe you do this. Narcissists exist and everything else. And so
mhm,
it's interesting how polarizing this is. And I even did a post on X about it. We'll see if and when any comments come back on that. But
yeah.
George, just kind of starting from that standpoint, what did I know you listened to it? So thank you for letting me force you
I
into it.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
What did you think about it? What was your
Well,
takeaway?
right from the beginning with the title, I love it because I like anybody that's challenging. I guess the
Yeah,
thought process or a current worldview. So I enjoyed the title. I enjoyed when he started talking about um, how he's viewing all of that, and really, you kind of boiled it down a little, but it comes down to everything is only something because we agree, right?
right,
Like if we say this thing is here and we all see it and we say it, then okay, it's there, right? It exists. But he's taking it to another level and going deeper and saying, okay, that doesn't even exist. Like it's just the fact that you're teaming up and all saying this thing exists and all the negative energies that go along with it exist. Although you're not seeing it that way, right? You're
right,
just saying, okay, narcissists exist. Okay, well, then you come up with a definition and you label it and you say, okay, this is what a narcissist does. But I do get his point where he's saying that, well, if you agree to that, then you're agreeing to that negative energy, and you really should approach it a different way. Like look inside
right,
instead of saying, okay, well, that person's bad, they're doing this, this, and that. Okay, but how is it affecting you? Like, are you letting it zap your energy? Are you falling into that? So
right.
yeah, I love it. There's a lot to unpack there, and it's a good topic for sure.
Yeah, I agree. One thing you mentioned about this, and I'll throw it out there now. He went on to say during it, and it's about a 20-minute clip or so. For those of you who can look this up, I'm sure it'll come up. He did go on to say, yes, these labels exist, and people have those behaviors within this 3D world.
Mm-hmm.
And what I hear him saying is, this is to try to look internally on a spiritual level, whether you want to call that 5D or something different.
Mm-hmm.
So it once you can get past that as someone who maybe is going through this right now, being treated by someone that potentially is like this, it's to look inward on a higher than 3D level as to why this happened to you and move on to what you can learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
I, you mentioned, George, I don't remember which episode it was, but you and I talked about it, and you talk about, I forget what your time frame is, but at least once a year, I think you should unalive yourself and then reinvent yourself. You need to
Yeah, you
take
should.
on that new
Yeah.
life, and that
Yep.
if you need to look back, which maybe you should consider not, but if you need to look
Mm-hmm.
back on that person and realize that that person was there and existed in you or as you for a reason, but that person now is gone. They
Yeah.
have moved on to a different version as you, I'm going to say, evolve or migrate forward in whatever our journey is.
Yeah.
Am I remembering that correctly? That's the frequency, at
Yeah.
least
Yeah.
once a
That's
year.
about right.
Yeah.
It's about having growth in every way you can, spiritually, with relationships, with your relationship with Prime Creator, with God, the Source.
Yeah. I'll share with
I
you,
mean,
George.
we're here to learn, right? And if you're not learning and you can't look at your past self and say, "Oh, okay, that was who I was back then. It was relevant for that time period, but I would not want to go backwards and
Right.
be that person anymore. Like they're not
I
good enough for the person I am today."
correct. Right.
Mhm.
I I think I'm going through a death of my own right
Oh yeah,
now. I haven't
good.
told you that.
Okay.
Um, yeah, unalived. I need to remember saying that because it'll get taken down somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, but we're talking about me, so I'll
Mhm.
keep it on me.
Yeah.
Um, trying to think of how to frame this best. So an example I'll give, George. I was on X a little bit more than typical yesterday, especially with what we're doing here, and I saw something. Here's what I tend to do. I tend to go through the feed and almost every single post that I see, just one after the other, just what the algorithm shoots to me, which I tend to have a lot of positivity. So it's a pretty decent one.
Hmm.
Decent as far as I don't have to skip around too much. I don't see a lot of travesties, things like that.
Yeah.
But every single post, or at least 80 to 90% of them, I have something to say. Shocking, right? But I have
Yeah.
something to say and something to add upon it. And it might pivot it a little bit towards positivity, but I tend to kind of freewheel and just sort of not, I'm going to say I don't verify it,
Hmm.
meaning that if I see a meme, and I think memes are powerful because it's a visual, it kind of connects that part of you to the part of like a resonance.
Hmm.
And so I build on top of one,
Hmm.
and then I put in a meme of my own, which I almost want to look it up. I might in a moment
Hmm.
when I turn this
Sure.
over to you, but I didn't realize the words that were in that meme that I'd taken from like a year ago when I joined X.
Hmm.
And I reread it after a good friend who she's really great at pushing back on things that she will
Hmm.
not agree with me. Sometimes that's easy, sometimes that's harder,
Yeah.
especially right now for me.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had all good intentions and positivity, but the way in which that message might come across isn't really putting it in a positive light. And
Hmm.
so the way to either talk to yourself or other people in a negative as opposed to a positive is, I think, what the rebirth is that I'm going through right now.
Hmm.
And George, for right, wrong, or indifferent reasons, I think you're going to see that happen over time, either on camera
Yeah.
or just in between us. So I'm
Right.
sharing this with you without you knowing it ahead of time. Knowing
Hmm.
you won't freak out about it, but
Yeah.
it's actually kind of cool that it'll be documented. Like, imagine if I watch this episode a year from now and be like, I can't believe he was spinning on that so much.
Yeah.
Like it was
What's
right there.
funniest
It's
about
okay.
social media and videos are that you can always go back and look, even no matter how cringeworthy it is. You go back
I
and look at what you typed, what you said. And I know a
yeah,
lot of people will go and delete it. I don't care. I'm just okay. That's a marker of a point in time, and I can be
right,
embarrassed about it, just
right.
like anyone else could be.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any comments, kind of what I'm describing? Anything that kind of in your own words or from your own perspective, if you've had that or have that going on for you? I'm interested.
Yeah. I guess in the past when I've changed, some of them have been rapid. Some of them have been like events that occurred. Um, the ones that seem to take the longest to change are when you're actively focused on it, I think, because we tend to gum things up a little bit. We tend to overthink things. The
Yeah.
ones that are just an event that happen and it's almost unexpected, and that's like, oh, I just that George is gone now. Like,
Right. Right.
almost like you got into a wreck and you lost like a tire of your car. It's okay, well that's gone now, I got to replace it. So it's like bits of you that when it's an event that happens, it's those I think I like the most, because you don't have any choice but to rebuild.
Right.
um, on the others, like I said, we slow it down a little bit when we're focused on doing it. But those are nice too, because you're putting in work to be different.
Yeah. Yeah. Putting in work is it can be great because you feel like you maybe have a little more control over it. You can kind of manage it as opposed to
Hmm.
just be pushed off a cliff and you're like, well, I'm here, so I got to
Yeah.
just do it. But those might, I think, to your point, or what I'm hearing from you is that you really have to put in the effort. Like you could easily just decide, I'm good. I know what I know. I'm learning. Like I
Hmm.
don't really need to reinvent this piece of me right now. And
Yeah.
so I think, now that I say that, I
Yeah.
think I had been doing that. I think I had been doing that, and I'd kind of seen it, I'd kind of felt it, and then I think it just kept amping up so that I
Hmm.
got to a point where clearly I've leaned in and said I'm ready.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of full. Now it's kind of full throttle. I'll I'll read to you. I won't share it on the screen, but I'll read to you what the meme was that I saw last night.
Okay.
So the meme was some guy with a net that was chasing a heart with wings on it. So he's running and he's trying to, and it says, God sometimes removes a person from your life
Hmm.
for your protection. Don't run after them.
Hmm.
So good message overall, right? And
Yeah.
so I decided to, and this meme's everywhere, so it's not for me. I don't even know where I got it from, but
Yeah.
the one that I responded to and then put it out is a guy kind of dressed in like an old sort of warrior type leather, sort of sheath suit of like leather armor. And it says, you don't lose friends, you lose undercover haters. Real
Yeah.
friends can never be lost.
Right.
You've seen this one, I assume?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Or you've seen me post it and you're like,
Yeah. Or I've seen a version
one
of
more
it. Yeah.
time, we're going to trot that one
Yeah.
out. So, but for me, I didn't read those words, I think, carefully. And it's not a mistake, right? I put it out. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Good. But I'm going to learn from that right now, because that framed it, frankly, in victim energy, I
Yeah.
think. It
Yeah.
said, oh, well, it's their fault and they're the haters, so
Hmm.
you never really had them to begin with, and you just go on without them. It labels them and puts them in this position of power over you, I
Hmm.
think. Does it make sense what I am kind of grappling with? Like the message is kind of on point, but yet where I'm at now and what I'm moving towards, it doesn't really work for me anymore. It's going to stay
Yeah.
up. I almost
Yeah.
decided I didn't delete. I wasn't going to decide to delete it. I don't do that, but
Yeah.
I was gonna almost like issue an apology, and I'm like, this is a lesson that I needed to learn,
Hmm.
and whoever sees it, they see it,
That's good.
and
Yeah.
right. So I don't know what comes to your mind when you. I know I've just read it to you. You can probably see
Hmm.
the images just in your mind, but
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
I do. So for me, that's something that just would have been regular and normal back in the past. I wouldn't have given it any thought like you either. Except, especially after seeing that video you sent me today, it does put it in a different light, because, okay, yeah, they're your haters and you're viewing that as you're a victim, like you said. because you have all these people doing things to you, instead of internalizing what it is about them that made you gravitate towards them in the first place. You know, if they were really bad people or not, we don't have to pass judgment on them. But if they're exhibiting behavior that you don't like, that isn't beneficial to you, then why did you have them in your life to begin with? That's
Right.
really more of what it is, which removes the negativity and the victimhood, but puts it back on you as you made that choice, an active choice. And maybe you've learned some things since then, and maybe you didn't know back then, but it's still, I mean, it's all on you, no matter what.
Right.
Um, Not
Yeah.
to say that sometimes something bad happens to you and you know you had no control or whatever at that moment, but I think a lot of times it's self-inflicted. A lot of these things.
Oh, I would agree. I mean, I think, in what you just said, the part that keeps coming up to me is that if you, and I think he even said this in the podcast that we originally started talking about, when you assign that label, when you assign that power to that person, and it's easy to do that if it just happened or if it was really awful and it was just a thing that you have real world 3D trauma from.
Hmm.
It's really hard to detach from it and use it for the lessons that it was meant to have for you.
Yeah.
Turn that into positive. So if you just simply say, like the meme that I responded with, that they were haters anyway, so good riddance and I'm
Yeah.
better. There's parts of that still ring true, but the other part that you're kind of circumventing is you're not really leaning in, you're not going all in to the lesson that is to be learned from that. Even if that lesson is, I'm not going to repeat it again, and here's why, and I'm going to be
Yeah.
aware within myself and care about myself more, that I'm going to look for that going forward. I don't know.
I see it as everyone playing their part. So I don't know if you play video games. I play video games, and you know, oftentimes when you play video games, you're playing with your buddies, right? And maybe it's a
Right,
bunch of you playing together, and you're competing. So here's a person that's your friend, and they're actively trying to kill you in the game or do whatever, right? Or score more points, and they're essentially being your enemy.
right,
And it reminds me of that book, The Three Waves of Volunteers, and the New Earth, because
yeah,
in there it talks about, in the spiritual realm, we all are together, we're all hanging out, we're all buddies, and sometimes the person that is your biggest enemy here in the 3D world is your best buddy in the spiritual world, and they're just playing a role. and
right.
and
That's
you
right.
know, it brings us back to like Shakespeare and all the world's a stage, and everyone's an actor. And the more I think about all that, the more it all flows in together, and it really should give people pause to think, okay, well, these are haters, but they're playing their role, and the role is for a
Right,
reason. And what am I supposed to pay attention to here? You shouldn't be mad at them. You should be thinking about what's the lesson, the overall
correct.
bigger picture here, because they
Yeah,
might be your buddy in the spiritual world, you know. And why there's no reason to throw any bad energy their way either. They're just playing their role like you're playing your role for them.
right. You nailed it. You nailed it, tying in the video games, which is a good
Yeah.
visual probably for several,
Hmm.
especially the younger crowd, right? And that's also what I think this podcaster was trying to say, in that when he
Yeah.
says that narcissists don't exist, he's talking about outside the, well, let's use it, outside the video game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, in this 3D world, they are playing that role,
Hmm.
but think beyond that video game, beyond this 3D matrix, to realize they have a part to play in your story, whatever that is, however dark it may be. And
Hmm.
on the other side, your two souls may be high fiving each other, being like, "Wow, I am
Yeah.
really nailing this part. Like, I'm
Hmm.
proud of me. That was really good.
Right.
I didn't think I could be the bad guy. I mean, the
Yeah.
last couple times I was a good guy, and I just didn't think I
Right.
could lean in. Did you see that part? It was really
Hmm.
good. I got that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, brother, I appreciate you making a little bit of time and sort of
Hmm.
off the cuff sending this over to you.
Yeah.
Hopefully that format worked for you. I
Yeah.
kind of walked through what I wanted to with you, and I'd love to
Mhm.
continue chronicling my unalive to new
Yeah.
reinvention here with your help if you're willing.
Sure. Yeah.
How about you? Are you heading into a new reinvention for yourself, or you
I'm
feel good
I
right now?
I'm on the cusp, I think, of starting that process.
Okay.
I feel like I've been, and I've probably said this a few times before, that I feel like I'm in a holding pattern, not like I'm waiting for something, but for me myself, I'm just I'm in a break mode, just take a little break,
Right.
observe. That quiet energy. I'll talk about you and TG. I'm just kind of observing. I'm not commenting as much. Like you mentioned, you were commenting a lot, and I was going through a phase like that a few months ago, where I was just constantly and throwing positivity and light, and
Right.
even countering some obvious lies and things like that. But now I'm kind of, I'll look a little bit. I don't spend as much time, and I don't see much to comment on either right now. It's a little bit quiet from my perspective. I know from yours it's not, but from mine it is.
Yeah.
And I feel almost the itch like, okay, it's time to do something again to pass through and become a new version of me.
Right.
I don't know when or how or what, but I have been thinking about going through another, I guess, exoskeleton shedding.
Right.
So, to try
Yeah.
it a different way.
Well, when you, for the audience, I'll mention. So, George, a couple days ago, shared with me. It was probably on text because I know you've been taking a little bit of a break. You were like, "Yeah, there's not much happening on X right now. Like it's some stuff, but not a lot." And I was like, "Wild stuff's happening for me."
Yeah.
I meant that in the way internally for me and some of
Mhm.
the new accounts for me. They've been around on X, but newer things that and kind of connections that I've made at least as an initial standing point. So there was an excitement and kind of a next phase for me in that. But in the things I think you're mentioning, yeah, it's relatively quiet. But that was a very personal. I feel like there's a lot going on, so
Yeah.
it's interesting. Well,
Mhm.
if you continue going through that, obviously respecting your breaks,
Yeah.
we can document it both and put it
Mhm.
out, and that may
Yeah.
help others.
Yeah.
So that's great, brother. I
Yeah.
appreciate your time today.
Yeah. I appreciate you too, Adam.
All right. Anything else you want to say before we sign off?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone for
Yeah.
tuning
My
in.
pleasure.
All right. Have
Thank
a good
y'all.
day.